Brian with Right on Red Podcast and the Divide Radio Show. This week's radio show was important and extremely important discussion and conversation on things going on both locally here in Rochester, but mainly on a national level. So for this week's podcast, I'm gonna play the radio show from Monday at 3 p.m. The Divide Radio Show here at 106.3 FM Rochester, and I do it live on Facebook Live every week as well. I'm going to play that for our podcast this week, and then I will be posting some short videos this week as well on some other important topics as the news just keeps coming and Joe Biden just keeps failing. So, again, remember, if you're in a state with primaries coming up today or next week or the week after or anytime soon, vote red. Vote red. If you don't like what's going on right now, vote red. And continue to do that. Talk to people. Discuss with people. Don't be afraid to debate. Don't be afraid to talk to people. Engage in conversation about conservative values, about why they work, why progressive policies fail. It's not new. Like I always say, it's not a new concept. Progressive policies have been tried and failed for years, numerous times. It's a cycle. The newer generation just doesn't remember this because they weren't around or were too young when this happened. But the same type of things have been around for as long as I can remember and long before my time, and they fail. Conservative policies work. Bipartisan policy is built for the long haul, and progressive policy fails every time. Look at what the quote-unquote moderate Joe Biden has brought to the table since he's come into office. His administration has been anything but moderate. They're extremely progressive. His policies, his executive orders have been extremely progressive. If you want to call them progressive, there's nothing, that says progress at all. It's actually regressive. It's horrible. But anyways, they call themselves progressive. They're Marxists. If you look at the Marxist playbook, everything they've done is straight from it. So they can call themselves whatever they want, but the fact is, it's a Marxist group, and it's Marxist policies they've been pushing. And if you look, every one of the moderate policies that he said he was going to enact, nothing happened. He folded to the progressives because he's scared of them and because he surrounded himself by them. That's the biggest reason. The people that influence him are progressive. Ron Klain is an idiot also. He might not have a job for long, but Jen Psaki, very progressive. The whole group of them are. And he's getting influenced by the loud group of progressives, which is not the majority group of Democrats, but it's the loudest group. And they've pushed him to do all progressive policies, which is why everything he's touched has turned to garbage. Every policy he's enacted has been a failure. Everything. Which is why his approval rating, you have to work to get an approval rating in the 30s because you have to dip into your own party to get that. You get just independence alone can't get you that low. So anyways, enjoy this radio show and listen carefully. And again, watch my YouTube channel, Right on Red, and subscribe to it and check out the videos because I post them during the week, shorts and, moderate time videos along with some longer ones sometimes. And then obviously my podcast each week. You have the video version if I can get it, if I do a video version, and I always have the audio version on all platforms for podcasts. So thanks again, and I hope you enjoy. Hey guys, it's Brian. Welcome to The Divide. Every Monday at 3 p.m. Underwritten by CJM, Full Service Remodeling. 414-8241. Call Chad for all remodeling needs. And Make the Tree Service. Call Will. 313-7840. If a tree fall in your house, you call them. Anyways, welcome to The Divide, where we try to use common sense and data in waking up the woke population and exposing extreme politics on both sides. Also, we try to get info from media sources from the right and the left, from both sides, and then put it together and then do our own research and get to the facts. Because there's a lot of facts left out when you're watching station or you're reading the Washington Post or you're watching Fox News, or you're watching CNN or MSNBC. There's going to be facts left out because they do have an agenda. Their narrative is always going to be aimed towards the left or the right, whichever station it is. And you're not going to get all the facts. So in order to do so, you can either tune into another station that's the opposite, or you can do some research on your own, or both. Sometimes, tuning into the other side, it's like, you get some extreme information that you don't want, but sometimes you have to do that. So I want to start today, though, with our president. Talk about our president a little bit. We haven't done that much. I mean, here and there, but for the most part, we haven't. So, as of right now, actually, let's start with like this. When he first came into office, President Joseph Biden came into office, on a high note, riding the wave of, he's going to bring us together and he's going to turn this country. The grown-ups are back in charge. Remember that? And he had a nice 63% approval rating, only 35 against, disapproval. So, I mean, that's good. That's great. That's wonderful. But now it's basically flip-flopped. I was looking at a graph earlier, which I wish I could show you, but the graph is literally an X. It's a straight X. I mean, when a graph is at an X, if it's, it's probably not a good thing, unless the one going up is something, your fortune or your wealth or something. But it's it's straight X, and what's happened is his approval rating has just fallen off. And in order to get to the where he is, I think Rasmussen had him at 38. In order to get that low, because you're always, if you're a Democrat president, you're always going to have the diehard Democrats that are always going to say, yes, he's doing a good job. If you're the same thing when Trump was in office, you are always going to have the Republicans that said, yes, he's doing a good job. No matter what he did, he could, like you said, could have shot someone on Fifth Avenue and they'd still do it. But so you're always going to have that group of people. And usually that group factors in, puts you well into the 40% range. And then you have the independents and some, there's some obviously people, moderates in your party, in both parties, that will take a look at things and analyze and tell you the truth. What's happened is a lot of people have done that. So with independents, I mean, his approval rating is it's disgustingly low. It's lower than anyone's ever been. And what's crazy is that amongst Latino voters, his approval rating is well under 50% as well. And with black voters, which is insane because literally, I mean, there's no shot of a Democrat winning without getting, a good chunk of the minority vote. Another article last night was stating that, and this was from the Washington Post, so it's not a far right, publication stating that suburban women and middle class women have largely left the Democratic Party. They made a quick stop. Basically, for the 2020 election, they went over. They went left because the previous administration, the previous president especially, turned them off. Some of the comments, the tweets, whatever it was, they were turned off by the last administration. So they voted, a lot of even the Republican women that are, right there in the center. They voted for Joe Biden. That's how he got elected. But the article stated that that shift is over. It went back the other way even more. The rebound effect was even more so than when it was, the original amount. So, I mean, basically to get that low, to get to the point of your approval rating to have it that low, you have to be trying to be that bad, or you have to have horrible people around you. And I believe that's it. He's got horrible people surrounding him. People who just either just refuse to see the truth or are that ridiculously dumb. And I don't think it's the second, because you don't get to that spot in life by being dumb. You obviously have to have some kind of intelligence. And when your chief of staff is posting, Ron Klain is posting, tweets saying, regardless of what you think the narrative is, we're actually doing a good job here. And it was all like cherry picked numbers from inside, areas where he's not doing well. No, he's not at all doing well. And I mean, people called him out. If you look at the Twitter post, there's thousands of comments after that, people calling him out. You had a few, agreeing with them, of course. But for the most part, people are realistic. And the one thing you're always going to find out, at least I've always found out in life, whether it's been myself who didn't do it or other people who didn't do it, when people don't take accountability for something they've clearly done, people are turned off by them. They tend to distance themselves. They tend to lose respect for the person. And that's what they've done. This, every administration to a point is going to try to deflect some blame or, find a scapegoat for something here or there. And you're always going to try to angle the narrative in your direction. That's why you have a staff, a PR staff, and a chief of staff, and all these staffers to do so. You want the narrative angled in your direction, but the narrative hasn't been at all. And it's, they've done a horrible job with that if that's what they're trying to do. But instead, they still get up on stage when it's press conference time and say, oh, well, it's not our fault. It was, it's crazy, the people they blamed. It was always the previous administration, but now it's getting too far out, so you can't use that anymore. So now it's ultra MAGA Republicans. What did the ultra MAGA Republicans have to do with any of this? You have control of the three areas of lawmaking. It's crazy. It's insane because every time they go up to the mic and blame Republicans for not coming through and not getting a bill through, unless it was filibustered, you got to get a hand on your own party first before you can blame the other party. It's not the Republicans a lot of these things aren't going through. It's Joe Manchin, Kirsten Sinema, and even a couple of others who have kind of bounced around and jumped ship when it comes closer to election time. So to blame the other party when your party hasn't even come to the table with 50 in the Senate, that's a ballsy move. And anybody, watching the television screen or paying attention to what's going on sees that. We're not blind. We're not deaf. Well, some people are, and that's horrible. But I'm saying the overwhelming population is not blind and deaf, and we can hear, we can see this, and it's a train wreck right now. It is a train wreck. There's a lot of, I was going through, preparing for the program. I'm going through article after article, and these articles are written by Politico, The Hill, the Washington Post, New York Times. It's like a lot of very liberal and very left publications and media outlets, and they're writing something has to be done. This administration, a lot of them wrote articles about them not taking the blame, not taking accountability for their actions and for the outcomes. They said, it's the one the other day that got me. We'll talk about Elon Musk in a little bit, but the one the other day where POTUS, I don't know who actually runs the account on the Twitter account, but they posted out, if you want to get inflation in hand or whatever, we need to the top the wealthy need to pay their fair share, something along those lines. The same quote that's always used. And Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk both responded, but Jeff Bezos said, he had a great response. He said something along the lines of, because it has nothing to do. Inflation has nothing to do with the rich paying their taxes. That's the bottom line. So, if you don't believe me, go look it up. It's completely two different things. You're comparing apples and oranges. So Jeff Bezos says, something along the lines of, you got to take the new Ministry of Truth misinformation board and should really check this post and do something about it because they don't have anything to do with each other. And that started a Twitter feud. And I guess it was Bezos' first Twitter feud, so it was a big deal. But he was going at him hard. Him and Biden were going back and forth. And it's kind of tough when you have two of the richest men in the world starting to hammer you. Because you can't cancel them, really. There's nothing you can do. It's like, oh no, these two were on my side, and now they're about to go after me. And it's tough because you got to prepare for anything. It's insane. But anyways, you look at the things that have just completely been a disaster. The border. There's no excuses for it. You can't blame anybody else. When you take March, for example, of 2020, we had record low for history, record low border crossings. March of 2021, it went way up. And in March of 2022, we had a record high border crossings. So it doesn't go in a year and in 2 years from having a record low to having a record high because of the previous administration's policies. When the previous administration instilled their policies and their laws and rules for the border, you saw crossings, apprehensions going down. And that's what it did. It went down. Then when the new administration comes in and literally 180s all the border policies and just completely obliterates every policy that was in there that the previous administration had used, it shot up. It completely shot right up. I mean, and they were asking the stations had reporters down talking to these caravans of people coming, the microphone in their face, and they're saying, "Why are you coming here?" And they're saying, "Because Joe Biden said we could. Because Joe Biden wants us. Because Joe Biden said we're allowed to." They had shirts of Biden. And then they get in front of the microphone and say, the reason is not us. The border's closed. We are not the reason they're coming up. And it's like, well, no, you are, because they even told us you're the reason. So you absolutely are the reason they're coming up. I mean, the narrative is, sometimes the Republicans want to put the narrative like anyone who crosses gets it. That's obviously not true. They're turning away about 50% of people. But then still, when you have the numbers of people coming over illegally, you are letting half of them in. That's insanity. Insanity. They let over 100,000 people in last month illegally. I mean, there is a process. People say, well, they need they're looking for help and they're looking for this, and there's a process to that. There's a process to everything. There's ports of entry. And that was the whole point with the border wall and all this. I know it was a big deal, but all the border wall did was funnel people to the ports of entry. And along with, if they did get trying to go through it, over it, under, it gave the Border Patrol time to get there, time to assess the situation, time to act. Common sense there. But when you're not using a port of entry, you shouldn't be allowed into the country. There's processes and procedures and systems in place for such things. I mean, I don't know. To me, it's like you can do. You're told, if you're in another country and you're told you're trying to get to America, there's an immigration system in place. Whether it's the best one we have, that we'll ever have or not, that's not the point. Yes, we could have a better immigration system, but point is we have one, and it doesn't say that yes, you can just swim across the river and come in. No, it states you come through a port of entry, or else you've committed a crime. You've illegally crossed into another country, a sovereign nation, and it's not something that really is talked about to the fullest extent where it's actually a crime. You're actually breaking the law. You're doing something you're not supposed to do, and it's just like no big deal. We'll process you. Here you go. And to me, it's really going to get, in my opinion, it's going to get awful as the next couple months come about, because nobody really, even though Title 42 is staying for the time being, as the judge, reversed that, as he was gonna, I think today or tomorrow was gonna be the day it was gone, but they made it so Title 42 is gonna stay, stay there for a little bit at least. But nobody's telling the people across that are waiting. People have come from thousands of miles away and are packed up on the border towns and border cities, waiting for this day so they can come in and not be turned away under Title 42. So nobody, some of them might hear it. So the information might flow there, but there's going to be a lot of people who don't. If you're stacked up with 10 of you in somebody's basement or whatever and waiting to cross, you're not going to get that information. You're just going to cross. So in my opinion, you're going to see a massive influx in border crossings over the next few weeks. Are we prepared for it? Absolutely not. And it'll show. But anyways, move on to the next one, which is, it's the energy costs and the fact that we are not energy independent is a big deal. And although people are sitting here, people want to say, and this administration wants to say, well, we have no real bearing over this, and we have no, it's not our fault that gas prices are flying. Yes, it's Putin's gas price hikes, and this and that. It's, again, we are not stupid people. We have brains. We remember stuff. So we remember that before 3 months ago when Putin invaded Ukraine, those prices were already double what they were when the last administration was in office, at the same time the year before. So it's not like they weren't going up before that. And that's what I'm talking about with accountability. It's like, you can't sit there and say, well, yes, they did go up, and they've gone up even more because of the war in Europe, but we're working on it with this, and this. No, it's like, it's only gone up because of that. Well, no, that's not even close to the truth, and all people have to do is look at the historical, the graph, and it'll show that it was already up. Excuse me. But it's again, they like to come out to the press conferences and say, there's 40,000 or whatever land leases that they have, that the people can, get this oil to you. They're not producing it, and they're, big oil's jacking their prices. It's a false narrative there. Because yes, there's some land leases, but guess what? You need more than a land lease to drill. You need drilling permits. You need a lot of things in order to go. And if it's not going to be profitable because during the exploration process you didn't find a large amount of oil, then you're not going to drill there. You need to move on. And we have the capabilities to stockpile and be energy independent. Up in Anwar, there is just so much waiting for us, and that was going to be huge for us. And they've stated over and over that Anwar in Alaska is the size of South Carolina. And they would need a small area to drill. You wouldn't even know they're there. They'd stall the trees, all the animals, everything would still be fine. If Anwar, they use this analogy, if Anwar was a Major League Baseball stadium, right? The area they would need for drilling and for, everybody to be there drilling and all the capabilities they need is the size of a laptop. So think about that. I mean, it's minuscule. So the environment wouldn't be crushed from it. Matter of fact, the environment would be better because we have regulations, we have rules on how we dispose of stuff, how we drill, how we do things. We have processes and we stick by them, and they're enforced in America. Whereas in other countries, they dump, they dispose of stuff in the ocean or wherever. They don't have any clean air regulations. They have nothing. It's like, oh, just do what you got to do to get money. So we would benefit. We would absolutely benefit by drilling more in Anwar, and we would absolutely be able to become energy independent again. But I don't think, obviously, we've stated this for months now. You've heard it. I'm sure you've heard it. If you're watching any news station, I'm sure you've heard it. It's obviously not going to happen. So I guess we'll get off that, right? The other big thing that's affecting people, obviously, is overall inflation, not just at the gas pump. But food, I saw a funny cartoon yesterday. It showed a man looking up and jumping, and it said out of reach, and it showed a gas pump that was like 10 times the size of him, so he couldn't reach the pump, and it showed a shopping cart that was 10 times the size of him as well, so he couldn't push the cart and get food. And it's the truth. Things are out of reach right now. I mean, for someone, who is making average wage, working 40 hours a week, they're trying to support a family, it's really tough to spend $100 and something to fill a tank of gas. I mean, in order to fill your gas tank, if you have to spend $100, and what if you travel a lot? What if you have to fill it twice a week or 3 times a week? I mean, you're talking half a paycheck there for some people. It's crazy. And then you go to the store and inflation's out of control. You're talking, they say 8.5%, but that's by the new measure. The new way of measuring inflation was put into effect for this administration only. It started with this administration. Look it up. You'll be amazed by it. The old way of calculating inflation would have inflation way higher than 8.5%. And that's a fact. I mean, because if you look at things, we're talking, they were showing a bunch of items that have gone up double digits, like cars and steaks and so many items, so many things that we need every day has gone up by double-digit percentage, into the 20s, 30s even, 40, 50, over 100 in some areas. Diesel fuel right now, $6.23. I think I drove by a place, $6.23 a gallon. Well, again, people wonder why prices go up when our truck drivers have to spend $6.23 a gallon when they were spending $2-something 2 years ago. You do realize that in order to factor that in, now think about what they're paying, $1,000 to fill their tank. You have to factor that into their costs to ship that. Now, if the person who they're shipping for has to pay them more, they have to jack up their costs. And then the cost, it goes down the hill. So everyone has to raise their costs. Walmart made a public statement this week saying they can't raise their prices fast enough in order to make a profit, or at least reach the profit margin they've always been at and their goal. They cannot raise prices fast enough. They said when they do their calculations and when they raise their prices, inflation's already affected it more. So they don't know what to do. A lot of places don't know what to do. So it's like, let's hear, if there's plans, if there's ways, let's hear them. Let's get out there and say, listen, I know times are tough. I know I may not have made every right move, but this is the plan I have to move forward with. And I think this is going to work. But the plan they come up with is we're going to tax more? Are you crazy? Go look that up. Go take an economics class. Go take it's like macroeconomics will tell you that 1,000 times over, that's not going to work. That's actually going to make things worse. When you tax companies higher, that rolls downhill. That was the whole plan, and it did work. It worked right off the bat when Trump tax cuts hit. Anybody who wants to say they didn't, it's not true. They absolutely did. The average wage went up when you count for inflation. The average wage went up for the first time since 1964 in 2018. People were getting bonuses that they hadn't gotten over 15 or 20 years for the first time, or people were getting them for the first time because only worked there 10 years or so. Christmas bonuses and other bonuses. Their wages were going up. We were seeing a lot more, not only jobs were being created, but anybody can create jobs, but real, well-paying jobs, careers were being created. And that was because when you take the corporate tax down, it's going to actually work in your favor. It's not, when you take it up, it's going to bring costs up, inflation's going to go up. You're not going to end up collecting more. All you have to do is look at history to see that. It's not hard. It's all on paper. You can check it out. Google it. You'll find it out from there. It's crazy. It's like Ronald Reagan said. He made a statement. He said, you don't tax more to decrease the deficit. You tax more to spend more. And that's the truth. So spending, we can't spend our way out of inflation. That's insane. It'll just make it worse. And now you have people using the R word, which nobody wants a recession to hit. Nobody. So what can we do? Who is advising our president? That's what I'd love to know. Ron Klain is not going to cut it. Ron Klain might not even have a job come 3 months from now. We've seen, obviously it's not a direct, relation to our president, but we've seen crime just go off the hooks in cities throughout the country. But it is a direct correlation from the light on crime DAs, the light on crime laws that have been passed over the last couple of years, and the way that police and police stations and law enforcement in general were being treated. So our sheriff here, Sheriff Baxter, had a nice graph, and it showed that a direct and an immediate correlation between when bail reform started, so it was a certain date, so it was jail bookings, the number of people booked into the county jail, Monroe County Jail, and then the number of shootings that were happening weekly. And it went, as soon as that number dropped dramatically, the number of bookings into the jail, the number of shootings shot up to the exact same. It was like the Biden X graph that I was talking about earlier. It was literally the Biden X graph. showed a direct correlation between the two. So you can see that you can fight. You can have the best officers in the world right here in Rochester, but things aren't going to change if the criminals just continue to right back out, right back out, right back out. There's a nice stat, which I was going to talk about later when I talked about the local stuff, but there's a nice stat showing that the last 12 people arrested for shooting someone in Rochester were on parole. The last 12. That's insane, right? That is insane. But anyway, so back to Biden. Removing the Trump tax cuts like I was talking about. You can't, when your employees are getting paid more, it means you're at the top, the company at the top is having more available income, more available cash flow, right? So it means their expenses are lower or their revenue is up. And when taxes are cut, when they did the Trump tax cuts and the corporate tax was cut, that gave them more available revenue to funnel to employees, make the bonuses, better wages, and it did. I mean, I'm sure there's companies that didn't, but a lot of big companies did that. A lot of them, and they did. I mean, there was news articles and programs all over showing all the companies that gave away bonuses at Christmas time in 2000, I think it was 17 or 18. And they were just, people were happy. People were extremely happy because they were feeling it in their pocket in a good way. Because it starts at the top. And it's, when you jack up taxes, especially when you jack up, restrictions and all that stuff on companies, things just tend to reverse the other way. When you have to pay more, when your expenses are higher and your revenue is the same, guess what? You have to find a way to still make that profit margin, but have money to pay higher taxes. Where does that come from? Wages you pay employees, money you invest into the company, bonuses, things like that. It's the same with the regulations. I mean, again, the biggest thing with the Biden administration with energy, it wasn't stopping the pipeline. Yes, that was a dumb idea. It was a dumb idea. But it wasn't even active right now. That wasn't the reason we're in the situation we are right now. One of the main reasons was the amount of regulations that he put back on drilling companies. And he did this all over the place, all the way down the chart for industries all over. It was because Donald Trump and his administration removed a lot of regulations. They felt if we remove the red tape and a lot of regulations, it makes it easier to basically conduct business and turn a profit, drive revenue. And it's true. And I'm not talking just at the top, like with the top companies, the big companies. I'm talking about in cities, which we called opportunity zones under the last administration, where the regulations and the red tape was removed so you could actually get in there and start a business. If you were someone who didn't have a lot of disposable income, but you had good ideas and you had something you wanted to start and you had a little bit of funds. They were deferring taxes, regulations were being moved, cut completely. And then because that was done by the most hated person ever by the left, it was immediately reversed. One of the first things that was reversed. It's everything that he has attempted to do and make better has just become a crisis, or it has completely gone the other way. And it's almost amazing. And then today, to make things even worse, let's talk about this one. I wish I had the audio. I don't, because it just happened today. But he was asked by a reporter if China invades Taiwan, are you willing to use military force against them? And he said, yes. Yes, we are. And the reporter said, well, you are? Did you say yes? I mean, she was as confused as everyone in the room because our overall stance has been, and it's been this way for a long, long time, has been ambiguity because we don't want them to know what we're going to do. It's stupid to say what he said. And they've been trying to clean it up all day, his staff. But it was one of the most bonehead moves. So you just told China, we'll go to war with them. That's a smart move. That was an intelligent one right there. One of the radio stations earlier said it best today. We truly did this. We put a man in charge that should be enjoying his golden years with his, grandchildren and planting flowers and taking walks by the lake and doing things like that, not running a country. And I'm not sitting here saying, well, Donald Trump should be running the country. I'm not saying that, and not even in a little bit. There's just got to be, this was a horrible idea. We knew what was going to happen. It's, you sit here and say, well, in 2022, maybe things will get better because there's going to be a lot of retribution for this. Republicans are going to take over. But what's going to happen? We still are stuck with 2 years here. And in the grand scheme of things, I think you're going to see a stalemate at best. So you're not really going to see much progression, or at least, but you might see at least some halting to, the snowball that's continuing to roll downhill and make things worse. I mean, if you don't agree with me, I'd love to have you, throw me a text and tell me, give me some of the good things so I can read them. 585-802-0757. Throw me a text or go on Facebook Live and check it out. Or check out my podcast, Right on Red Podcast, which I'm releasing a new one again probably tomorrow. Be the 6th episode. It's been cool so far. I have a video edition which goes on YouTube, my YouTube channel, Right on Red Podcast. And then I also have short videos on there too throughout the week. And I also have the audio version which goes on all platforms. It is, you can find it on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Google, all this stuff. So check it out, Right on Red. Anyways, it's, you want to see, at this point, with things going the way they are, is the left going to adjust and embrace common sense, in more of a moderate agenda? Because the progressive agenda and the progressive policies failed. They don't work. They failed, 35, 40 years ago, and they're going to fail, then they fail again. This isn't a new thing. These policies aren't new. This agenda's not new. The narratives aren't new. This has happened before. It's just that most people weren't either old enough to remember it back then or just weren't even around back then. But all this stuff has happened before, and it didn't work then. It's not going to work now. And more moderates, more and more independents, more and more people are seeing that, which is why you're seeing this full-scale, exodus from the Democratic Party. And again, you're going to always have that base that's not going anywhere. It doesn't matter what they did. They're not going anywhere. But you do have many that were moderate Democrats. And I guess their favorite line is, I didn't leave the party left me. Ron Singletary, for example, was a Democrat. And he's running in Rochester as a Republican against Joe Morelli for the congressional seat. I mean, you see it, Vernon Davis running in Georgia. You see Jack Brewer was another one who was a lifelong Democrat who ran as a Republican now. You see on Fox News, Leo Terrell, who was just a miserable progressive for a while, and always the guy coming in and screaming and yelling, but he slowly kind of came back and faded, and now he's a pretty hardcore conservative. And I'm not saying everyone's going to switch from a Democrat to a hardcore conservative, but people like Tulsi Gabbard has seen enough to know that she's seen enough of the progressives. And unfortunately, the left, the Democratic Party, instead of pushing the extreme left and away, instead of saying, listen, you're crazy, just like the extreme right is crazy, okay? Nobody, if the right just embraced the far extreme right philosophy, they'd be done too. But the left, for some reason, and I believe it's because the media allowed it to happen. The media grabbed these policies and this agenda and the narratives, and they ran with it. And they said, wait, you guys aren't crazy. Let's run with this stuff. But they weren't. But it was crazy. Everything about it is insane. It's using threatening language and canceling people and even violence. I mean, you saw in 2020 when politician after politician was promoting violence. We saw violence all over the place. And then I was like, what violence? What violence? I mean, come on. It's 2020 at the time. There's plenty of camera phones out there. There's plenty of ways to record stuff and see it and upload it right away. We all were watching. And it was, it was a thing of intimidation. And it's sad because some of the best, best Democrats, like the Joe Manchins and people who are really there for their constituents, are left kind of holding the bag and thinking, where am I going to go? Like I said, there's a longer distance, a bigger distance between, a progressive in the Democratic Party and Joe Manchin, which is a moderate in the Democratic Party, than there is between Joe Manchin and the Republicans. There's a bigger difference there. So in your own party, you ultimately have two parties, at least. And, one of the most famous conservative radio hosts, Rush Limbaugh, used to say, the left will eat themselves. He said, and that's because the progressives, a lot of them grew up in an era of, with entitlement, you get what you want, no competition, nothing, they call them the participation trophy generation, right? And it's funny, but it's not, because in the same sense, it's like, we deserve this. You hear a lot of, we deserve this, we're entitled to this. And no, it really kind of dilutes the American dream and dilutes the morals and values that many of us were taught that you need to have in order to achieve. Yes, you can have a goal, but you're not going to achieve that goal just because you deserve it or because you're entitled to it. You're going to achieve it through like hard work. And these things, and if you look back into the BLM writings and some of the far left Marxist, the BLM, one of the founders admits her philosophy is Marxist. 100%, she admits it. You can find the video of it. And it's shown right there that they make excuses for things like that. That hard work ethic and reward for hard work is quote unquote white culture. Well, that's just not true. There's so many people, minorities especially. Immigrants come here legally and they work their butt off to get to it. That's what they came here to do for the American dream. So you see so many business owners and wealthy business owners that came here from, South America or Mexico or Europe or Asia or wherever. And it's far from white culture. It's just how things work when in capitalism, which obviously they're against. You can't have Marxism and capitalism at the same time. So it baffles me in my mind when you say that, when they say that, white culture. When Ron DeSantis started that program down in Florida to promote fathers in the homes and to have mentors for the kids who don't have fathers in their homes, because as President Obama stated in 2014, it was the #1 predictor for children to go awry, to drop out of school, to end up in the criminal justice system, to end up dead even, to end up in gangs, to be shot, to repeat the cycle, to continue to live in poverty. That was the #1 predictor. So we do something about it. No, that's offensive. That's offensive, the progressive said. What's offensive about that? You talk about root causes all the time. All the time. What's the root cause? There's the root cause. The root cause of underprivileged areas staying underprivileged. That's the root cause. One of the main causes. And the Republican Party wants to do something about it. So that's not okay. That's not okay to the progressives. Yeah, but if they care so much about, the people in those communities like they claim they do, they should be all for that. Because that's something that really is going to work. It's going to be effective. They identified a problem. They actually got the data. It showed that's a factual problem. The evidence is there. And you do something to solve that problem. But, I don't know. Maybe politicians benefit more from the actual problem than they do solutions. I've heard that numerous times, so maybe it's true. But anyways, it's like I said, the media gave the progressive wing, which it to me is just the far left extreme wing, a platform, and normalized it. And that's what happened. And that's what came with it. And what it did was, yeah, it made some people mad. But what it did is it actually drove people away from the party, which is why for the first time in history, there's more registered Republicans than Democrats, which is crazy. And you're seeing a slew. 10, 15 years ago, yes, when you referred to the Republican Party, it kind of was like the old stiffy white guy party, It kind of was when they would say that. But now, I mean, it's anything but that. Anything but that. Most of the people running in 2022 for Congress, for Senate, are minorities, women. You're just seeing such a diverse party, and it's become that way naturally, just because we don't, in that party is not focused on that. We're not focused on, okay, well, we need to have a black person here. We need to have a Latino woman here. We need to have a gay person here. No, it's like, come on. Best man for the job. That's how it goes. And because of that, you've seen a slew of people leave. And yeah, a lot of them went independent, but some of them came over here. And a lot of the people were black or Latino. And if you go on YouTube and you look and you search Walk Away, you'll find, I wish I had his name. I had it written down. I lost it. He's a gay male. He was a lifelong progressive Democrat. He said he started seeing holes in the stories and started seeing that these policies that were called something really were aimed at something else. And, watch the video. It's 15 minutes long. It's great. Tell you all about it. But he started a movement to walk away, as a gay man, to walk away from the Democratic Party and over to the Republican Party. And he's got hundreds of thousands of subscribers and people that are with him, now in that movement. And it's because, even though the narrative gets played every couple years by the left, their number one thing to do is, well, the Republicans are racist. They're racist. They're racist. It doesn't, you can only say it so much without proof or without any evidence before you get, before it gets shown and you get exposed. And that's what's happened. Or, well, the Republicans are racist. How? They just are. Because Donald Trump is. Well, how's Donald Trump racist? Well, because he said in Charlottesville that there's good people on both sides. No, that's not what he said. Yes, it is what he said. Actually, he said that. But, of course, the second line never gets played. And that's the thing in politics. Dirty, dirty tricks. You can not like Donald Trump for a lot of reasons. But there's been no evidence of Donald Trump ever being any type of racist person at all. Not even a little bit. He said there's good people on both sides. And the next line literally says, now, I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis or the white supremacists. They should be condemned. They're horrible people. I'm talking about the people who got permits to save their statues. That's exactly what was said. Look it up. Go watch it. You can watch it right on YouTube. So when Joe Biden literally last week said that in Europe, or when he was in or Asia, wherever he was, he said that to someone face to face. It was a leader of another country. And that person's got to think, what? Are you serious right now? Because obviously they know the full thing. When he continues to use that exact line, people start to say, whoa, dude, really? We've all seen this by now. We all know that's not the truth. So why are you continuing to use something, a narrative that's completely manufactured and just completely untrue? And people tend to leave. I mean, like I said, the far left agenda, the far left outlook at people, they are as hateful of people as the far right is. They call them far because they were far away from the center, and that's the truth. They call them extreme because they do extreme things. They have extreme views. And the extreme left and the extreme right are both dangerous people. They're dangerous groups. They have dangerous ideas. They both, you never know when you have a crazy person that's going to resort to violence. Speaking on that, we'll touch on, the horrible, horrible situation in Buffalo 2 weeks ago. I mean, it's awful. Just an absolutely awful thing. When you have someone in the year 2022 who can not only hate someone because of their skin tone, but actually go on a killing spree and shoot people because of that, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. It's a horrible situation, and it's undescribable, really. You think, how could somebody not see this coming? I mean, this kid, in order to get that hateful and be such an evil human being, there had to be signs. There had to be things, and there was. It shows that. When you get to the extreme where you literally are willing to kill someone because of a physical characteristic, someone you've never met in your life, obviously you're insane. Obviously you have a complete lack of, you're a sociopath. It's not limited. See, here's the other thing. It's like, too many people want to use this as a political, situation. Oh, well, we can blame it on this, we blame it on that. And it's like, no. It's nothing. There's nothing to do with politics here. In his 180-page manifesto, sick manifesto, never once did he mention, Fox News or Tucker Carlson or conservatives or this or that. Not once. He mentioned communism a lot. He was a sick person. And what happens is you find that in the corners, in the vast minority, or 0.001% of any group of people. You'll find that when people start to, the point is, it's not limited to, a white supremacist, which is kind of how, they want to aim it, angle it, of course. But it's not like that. Don't angle it like that. Angle that as a crazy person who literally went to the extremes because he's mentally unhinged and decided to, go to some websites that are hate websites, and, like I said, there's a tiny percentage of people who are racist towards black people that are white supremacists, and he found those people and then got unhinged and killed people. Just like the Wisconsin killer, who was a black man who hated white people so much, and it was all down his social media and manifesto as well. Hated people because of the color of their skin, because they were white. And he drove his car into elderly women, or elderly people and children, because of their skin color. And you can almost take both of them, and it's almost identical situations with their manifestos, what they said in them, their thought process. And to think that those two people would hate each other so much, only because of their skin tone, not because they're both crazy, but because of their skin color. But they're the exact same person inside. They're a hateful, evil bigot. And it's like, it's disgusting. And it's just, to most of us, if you're a normal person, you're a normal human being, a normal American, you sit there and think, it's 2022. How can someone ever even come close to not liking someone because they're black, or because they're gay, or because they're trans, or whatever? Who cares what someone is? That's, if you really don't like someone because say they're gay or trans or whatever, you got issues yourself. You should probably see maybe a psychologist or something, because people are people. And if you think, one of the earlier shows during the day on another station the host said, what if this kid, 18-year-old kid, instead of killing these people, got to know these people? Because there was some good, you read about these people, there was some real good people in that group that unfortunately were taken from us. Someone who ran, a homeless food shelter, food kitchen, whatever you want to call it. A retired police officer who was a security guard there, who actually got some shots off at him, but they bounced off his body armor and he was shot dead. A woman just loading her car for groceries. A man who went to get, it was his son's 3-year-old birthday, and he went to get a cake. And then this man, to be honest, I wish I never saw that video, because it kind of runs through my head. It's disgusting. It's one of the most horrible things you'll ever see. And I know a lot of people saw it, and you can't unsee it, and that's too bad. But in the video, this man who's killing people, he walks down by the registers, and he sees someone cowering near the register. He goes over it with his gun, and he sees the man has white skin instead of black skin. And what does he say? Sorry, and walks away. Now, to be honest, I don't know how I'd feel if I was him, man. If my life was spared because of my skin tone, I'd feel awful. I don't know. It's not his fault by any means, but it still make you feel awful. Next week, I have the whole hour. I have a wonderful guest, Marcus Williams, who's running for state assembly. And again, he's got a different skin tone than me. He's black. I'm white. What does it matter? Marcus will talk a little bit about that and why he is a conservative and he's running in the Republican Party. He believes in his values and he's very set on that. And he's someone who isn't going to follow the exact conservative guy. Well, you have to believe this. Marcus has his own beliefs, and I love it. And he'll talk more about it next week, but you have to listen to him. And Marcus is someone who needs to be elected in this community for the state. Because I don't want to get too much into it. You can go to marcusforrochester.com at his website and see more, but he'll tell you more about it next week. But he's a brilliant guy, and he's not afraid to go out and show and say what he believes and talk to people who believe differently and talk to them, not yell at them, not scream at them, but actually talk or debate with them and say why he thinks the way he does and why he feels that things could be way better here in Rochester. I know that he cares about our community, he cares about the state, and I'm really excited to have him on next week. He just confirmed right before the show that he will be here next week, again, 3 p.m. And there's some more stuff I really wanted to get to today, unfortunately. But I wanted to get to Elon Musk as man, I saw a tweet. This one guy said, I have, because Elon Musk has Asperger's, he said, I have friends who have Asperger's. And when they when someone gets, their attention goes to something, it's almost like a hyper focus, almost becomes an obsession. And the far left especially, has his attention, has Elon Musk's attention. He said, so I feel sorry for him. And he doesn't let up. They went after him. They literally went after him. You're talking about a guy who should be the hero of the left. He makes electric cars. I mean, who's doing more for the climate than Elon Musk? But simply because he said, I'm going to vote for Republican this time because I don't believe in what his post said, progressives have become the party of division and hate and, everything I just said earlier, he stated. And I agree with him. And he said, until that changes, I'm going to vote Republican. Okay, well, they came after him, but they didn't count on Elon Musk coming back after them. So, go check out the Twitter feed. Go check out the stories with him. We'll talk about it more next week if I get a chance, because I'm going to let Marcus talk as much as he wants. I want to talk about the local police accountability board, who is the city council paused their spending because 2 purchases really were flagged. One for about $100,000 for furniture when the beautiful, expensive office building they just moved into is fully furnished. Yeah, they're going to spend another $100,000 on office furniture. Interesting. Another one was for about another $100,000. I think it was $98,000 for 2 Ford Explorers. More expensive vehicles than the police themselves drive. Nice, right? Half of it has been suspended. We don't know why, which is interesting because the Police Accountability Board demands transparency when something happens. But when something happens with them, we need to handle this internally. I mean, I don't think you could be any more backwards, do you? But we'll talk about that again next week and the week after. I got to get going. It's getting late. But I appreciate everyone who joined me either on the radio or on Facebook. And again, look for my podcast, and I'll be here next week. Thanks a lot, guys.